Alright, 5th grade ELA, text set, expository nonfiction. We're going to read the story called The Cod's Tale, written by Mark Kulvinsky, illustrated by S.D. Chandler. It says, from the author of the New York Times bestseller Salt and Cod, a biography of the fish that changed the world. The codfish. The Atlantic cod is a large and ugly fish. It is often more than 3 feet long and has gray or brown skin, yellow or gold spots on its back, and odd whisker-like feeler hanging from its chin. The cod spends its life swimming with its big mouth wide open, trying to swallow whatever will fit. It will even eat small, round, young cod. It also eats things that are far less tasty. Like styrofoam, coffee cups have been found in cod stomachs. Almost any bait or object, even a fish-shaped piece of lead, can attract a cod. The cod's greedy appetite makes it easy to catch. The life cycle. So we're going to be learning about the life cycle. You can see now it's titled by the heading. Now we're talking about the life cycle. A single codfish will lay millions of eggs. The larger the fish, the more eggs she produces. Fish grow larger every year of their lives. A cod that is 40 inches long can produce 3 million eggs at once, but a cod that is 50 inches long can produce 9 million eggs. The longer a cod's lives, the more young cod she can produce. If a cod can avoid fishermen and other predators, it can live 30 years. By then it is as large as a man and produces many millions of eggs. For centuries it was thought that with so many eggs, cod would always be plentiful. But now we have learned that this isn't true. Most of the eggs do not survive. In the ocean world, in which big fish eat smaller fish and smaller fish eat still smaller fish, it is very dangerous for the smallest creatures. Cod eggs are the size of a very small bead and float unprotected near the ocean surface. 2 weeks after the eggs arrive, almost all of them have been eaten or destroyed by storms. The few surviving eggs hatch into tiny cod. They are extremely hungry and must eat constantly so that they can grow. At first, they eat phytoplankton, creatures so small that they can appear not as individual animals but as a cloud in the water. After a few days of eating, the cod are large enough to eat the slightly bigger zooplankton. Days later, still not an inch longer, they are large enough to eat krill, which resemble tiny shrimp. But there is competition for the food. Herring, markhor, and other small fish also eat krill, and while they are at it, they eat the baby cod. The humpback whale, with its huge open mouth, moves through the water like a factory-sized scoop. After a few weeks, the surviving cod are about 1.5 inches long and translucent. They are called juveniles and are big enough to leave the dangerous surface of the ocean and dive to the bottom of the sea. There they look for rocks and other places to hide from the larger fish that hunt them. Enemies. If the young cod can stay alive for the first year, they will now be big enough not to fear other fish that swim above them. The cods can swim up and eat smaller fish or dive back to the bottom and eat mussels and other shellfish. As it is one of the larger fish, few animals will eat the full-grown cod. But they still have 2 deadly enemies. One is the seal. Seals love to eat cod, but they do not like bones, so they bite the cod in the belly and throw the rest away. The other, more deadly enemy of the cod is man. People eat almost every part of the cod. Some think the head is the most flavorful part, especially the cheeks and the part under the chin. It is sometimes called the tongue. People also eat the egg, stomach, and liver. Yuck. Oil from the liver is given to children because it is rich in vitamins. Most agree that oil has a horrible taste. In Scotland, cod liver is stuffed in cod stomachs and called crappin muggy, a name that sounds as unappealing as the dish itself. In Iceland, they grill cod skin and serve it with butter. And long ago, when the people in Iceland were very poor, they sometimes soaked cod bones until they were soft and ate them too. Ugh. That's disgusting. The continental shelf. It is easy to imagine the ocean is full of fish, but we only think the fish that because fish live near us, close to the land, most fish live on continental shelves. The part of the land that extends from the shore under the ocean in some places for only 20 miles and others for hundreds of miles. In that shallower water, sunlight helps tiny sea organisms grow and become food for fish like cod. Crossing the Atlantic Ocean from America to Europe, a boat sails past many fish when it first leaves America. Then, once it goes beyond the North American continental shelf, it may go for days without being near fish. As it gets close to Europe, approaching the European shelf, fish appear again. For the northern part of the globe where cod live, the continents are close to each other. Britain is close to Iceland, which is close to Greenland, which is close to Labrador and Newfoundland. Shelves of these land masses are even closer and the water is cold. Since cod live on shelves and like cold water, then the one place where the ocean can be crossed without ever being far from cod. So this is the continental shelf, and this is where the cod lives. Vikings! Between the year 800 and 1100, the Vikings left their homes in Norway, Sweden, and Denmark to travel farther than Europeans had ever gone before, throughout Europe and all the way across the cold North Atlantic. They were able to travel such long distances because they had solved two of the greatest problems of ocean travel. First, the hull, or bottom of a Viking ship, could endure months of pounding ocean waves because the Vikings overlapped the planks inside of just placing them next to each other. And secondly, they had food perfect for travel, dried cod. The Vikings learned to hang the cod in the cold, dry Arctic air until it was hard as wood. This tough, dry food had no fat and was full of protein and would not spoil. The Vikings were traders, constantly in search of goods. Their limited northern products made from fur, reindeer antlers, and walrus tusks were not enough for a prosperous trade, so they also sold into slavery people they captured by attacking villages in Britain and France. This made the Vikings a feared, warlike tribe. No Viking was more feared than Eric the Red. His father had been expelled from his native Norway for killing people, and then Eric was expelled from Iceland for the same thing. He had left Iceland in about 982 with his son Leif Ericson and a band of followers. On a small open-decked ship, they sailed west over the dark sea. The waves sometimes rolled 3 times the height of the Vikings' mast and threatened to crush them, but with their sail and oars and their skillful rowed on just the right side of each wave until they arrived in a land of glaciers, rocks, and icebergs that glowed robin's eggs blue. So I'm not going to read that, but that's all about stockfish. Oh, and down here is a timeline to show us the timeline of prehistoric times all the way to the 1000, where the Leif Erikson makes first of several trips to North America. Eric found a new land which he named Greenland to attract settlers, but there was no green, only white and blue ice and black and gray rock. The Vikings built a small colony, but after a few years, hoping to find a better place, they caught more cod and hung it from poles to dry until they had enough food to sail farther west. Then, just as they were about to leave, Eric hurt his foot in a horse riding accident. He had to stay in Greenland, so his son Leif Erikson led the next journey. Leif sailed on to a place he called Stoneland, which was probably the rocky Labrador coast of Canada, and then to Woodland and Vineland. The identity of these places is not certain. They may have been Newfoundland, Novia, Scotia, or Maine. The Vikings found little food in these places, and angry tribesmen often attacked them. But they could keep traveling because they had their hard, dry fish to break off and eat like stale bread during long winter months. Many historians did not believe that the Vikings had been to North America until 1960, when the remains of 8 Viking-built turf houses dating from the year 1000 were found in Newfoundland, proving that they had been to America long before Christopher Columbus. The big secret. The Basques were probably the next Europeans to visit America. In the 14th and 15th century, most European fishing communities had heard rumors that the Basques were fishing in a land across the sea. The Basques lives in a small area of velvety green mountains with rocky crests that are partly in southwestern France and partly in Spain, but they are neither Spanish nor French. They have their own customs, traditions, and languages. The Basques were the first people to hunt whales for profit. At first they caught them near their beaches, but in the 9th century the Vikings came to the land of the Basques. The Basques were able to discover how to build ships that could travel long distances the way the Vikings had. With these new strong ships, the Basques chased whales into northern waters, covering the sound of their oars with cloth so they could row up to the sleeping black giants and plunge their long harpoons in the whale's sides. That's awful. The Basques traveled far north for whales, and by about 1400 they found the crowded school of cod on the coast of North America where the Vikings had fished. By 1400, many of the Vikings had become Christian and had settled in various parts of northern Europe. The colonists on Greenland had died off, and the Basques had the waters of North America to themselves. They began to sell cod in Europe, the first to earn money from North America fish. Because the Basques were growing very rich selling cod, they did not want to tell anyone where they had found this huge school of fish. They did not claim the land. They built no settlements, so they didn't have camps in the summer where whale fat were cooked into oil, where the codfish were spread open, salted and dried. Then in the fall, they loaded their ships with barrels of whale oil and dried fish that they took back to Europe to sell.